The idea that the starter home is this amazing way to build wealth is a little bit more of a marketing ploy than a solid financial strategy. So today we're gonna talk about it. But the first documented mention of the term starter home was about a century ago in the year 1926, which described starter homes as, and I quote, "for the man and wife who wants a home with comfort but small expense." And then after World War II, the starter home kind of became synonymous with the idea of the American dream. But what actually constitutes a starter home and what value does it actually bring you? So according to the New York Times, a typical starter home is going to be 2 to 3 bedrooms and less than 1,400 square feet. Now what's crazy is that in the 1940s, around 70% of homes were that size, according to CoreLogic. So 7 in 10 homes were going to meet that criteria. And the median home value in the United States was $2,938, which if you adjust for inflation, in 2023 dollars, it'd be worth about 50 grand. But today, only 8%, so 8 in 100 homes meet this size criteria for a starter home. And the average price per square foot hovers around $150, meaning your average starter home would be $210,000, which is a real increase in price of about 400%. It costs 4 times more. The math is mathing violently. Because even if you were able to snatch up a starter home at a decent price, it's still really not as much of a slam dunk financial investment as we've all been led to believe. The idea that you're going to build up a ton of equity and then move out after a couple of years and upgrade to an expensive home and have this sizable profit, it doesn't really pass the historical vibe check. But if you look at housing prices since the end of World War II, when the term got really popular, to the early aughts, you find that after inflation, homes didn't really appreciate. They appreciated at an annualized average rate of about 0.32% per year, which is to say, like, not at all. In fact, practically all of the real growth that we've seen in the housing price index has occurred in the last couple of years, if you don't count the run-up and then subsequent crash of 2008. And of course, we can't forget about the other costs of buying a home outside of just the mortgage alone. So today we're gonna look at an example out of Atlanta, Georgia, because Atlanta is a city that's kind of reflective of the average cost of living in the United States. And we're gonna try to use medians wherever possible, but in some cases we only have averages, so bear with us. But the median home price in Atlanta as of January 2023 was about $350,000. Now this is about in line with the national, which is around $359,000. Here's what's crazy. The average 5-year annualized growth rate in Atlanta is 14% appreciation per year. Now that's crazy. And like we said, that is historically really bananas compared to just that broader context we're looking at today. Now, the average property tax rate in the region is 1.2%, which is a slight uptick from the national average of 1.1%, but we'll do what we can. So if you're doing the quick math, that's about $4,200 per year on a $350,000 home. The average interest rate in the 2002 to 2022 period was about 4.82%, so that's what we're going to be using today. And your average closing costs are going to be somewhere in the ballpark between $7,000 and $17,500 on a $350,000 home, as this is typically anywhere between 2 to 5% of the home's value. So we're going to assume that you'll put 20% down, $70,000, which means you're going to take out a mortgage for the other $280,000. Let's say you have a solid credit score above 700. And that you get the average annual homeowner's insurance rates, call it $2,000 per year on a $350,000 house. We'll also pretend you don't have any PMI, no HOA fees, none of the extras. We're going to keep it lean. And we're going to assume that because this is a starter home, you are only going to live there for 5 years before you sell for your big fat profit and you upgrade. And after our nice big $70,000 down payment, we're looking at a monthly payment on our mortgage of $1,472, which sounds pretty reasonable on its face. We still have to add taxes and insurance, but take a look at the next 5 years of your amortization schedule, how you're going to pay off this debt. For the 5 years that you plan to live there, you're going to pay $86,847 toward the loan. Here's the kicker, though. $63,775 of that is just paying interest. It's not building equity in anything. It's just paying back the interest on the loan. Then you got to add your 5 years of property taxes and insurance. Your closing costs, we'll choose the middle estimate there. And that's a grand total cash outlay of $200,177 over 5 years. Now that's assuming you have no increases in property tax, you have no increases in insurance, you don't have HOA, you don't have PMI, you don't have any maintenance or repairs. And of course, we still have to pay back the loan. We still owe the majority of the mortgage that we took out, right? Because the majority of our payments in the first 5 years was just paying back interest. So we still owe $256,927. Now, in order for us to break even on the $200,177 we've already spent and the $256,927 that we have to pay back, this means that we would need to net $457,104 after broker fees on our $350,000 starter home after 5 years. Now, if you back into the math, assuming you're going to have to pay about 6% in broker fees, this means that you're going to have to sell that house for about $480K. Now, if you're calculating what that means for your appreciation rate, it means that your house is going to have to appreciate by about 6.52% per year in order for you to walk away net zero. Again, this isn't impossible given the history of appreciation over the last couple years in that region of around 14%. But remember, it's not historically likely when we zoom out. And the last few years have been anything but typical in the real estate market. Now, it's also equally important to note that the alternative that you have available to you, which is renting, will also be a cash outlay over those 5 years. You could make the case that in order to beat renting, you don't have to even break even on your home purchase. You just need to lose less than you would have by renting. For example, if you could rent something comparable for an average price of $2,200 per month over those 5 years, you would spend about $132,000 in rent over those 5 years. Meaning, if you don't recoup the entirety of your cash outlay on your starter home, but you still sell at a loss that's less than $132,000, you're technically coming out ahead. But the bottom line is, the starter home is often positioned as this great wealth building tool, something that's going to enable you to make a big profit and then move on to a bigger and better home. And as we can see, that's really not very likely. But whether you lose more or less than renting will depend on the price to rent ratio in your region and the appreciation rates in that region over the time that you own the home. So hopefully by now it's becoming clear that the idea of a starter home has always kind of been a marketing ploy just to get you to buy a house sooner. And when you add in other factors right now, like a lack of inventory, especially for homes of this size, and the fact that they're not really building many new ones because Americans want bigger homes, and you consider the price of construction and land going up. Hopefully you can feel good about not rushing into your home purchase or feeling like you need to get a starter home, and instead buying when the time and home is right for you and you can comfortably afford the house that you want, both financially and emotionally. And that's all for this week over here on YouTube. But before we go, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe to our channel and let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to hear the full deep dive on why my husband and I are continuing to rent this year instead of buying now that we're moving again, you can listen to the full episode of the Money with Katie show, which we'll link in the description of this video. Bye!